The first laugh didn't sting. Not right away. It was the kind of sound people make when they don't know who the joke's really on. A few chuckles, awkward smiles, someone clearing their throat. But her eyes didn't flinch when she said it. She wanted it to land. Oh, he's just home all day, my little house plant. She added a fake pout and ruffled my hair, like I was a well-fed pet basking in sunlight. The group around us laughed, not kindly, not warmly. The kind of laugh that tests social boundaries, then spills over them. I felt my cheeks stiffen, not with embarrassment, but restraint. I kept my glass level in my hand, didn't say a word. Across the circle, her manager didn't laugh. He just stood there, unreadable. A tall, clean-cut guy with a posture that suggested boardrooms and closed-door decisions. His eyes lingered on me a second longer than everyone else's. Not with pity, with something else. Something like analysis. She leaned toward him with that sideways grin she saved for people she wanted something from, all teeth and faux humility. He's harmless, she added, a throwaway line to cap the joke, then turned away from me like I wasn't part of the conversation anymore. I let the moment pass. I could have said 1,000 things. I didn't. Not because I couldn't, because I was watching. We were at her company's quarterly networking mixer, hosted in one of those rooftop hotel bars downtown with sweeping views and overpriced cocktails. I'd come as the supportive husband, the plus one, the ghost in her shadow. I used to have a title too. I used to run meetings, deliver pitches, sign deals. But when her promotion came and my last contract wrapped, we'd agreed, I'd step back for a while. Consult quietly. Regroup. Let her moment shine. Apparently, shine meant turning me into a punchline. When the conversation shifted, and her coworkers began swapping stories about client disasters and last-minute presentations, I drifted toward the bar. Ordered something I didn't want just to keep my hands busy. I caught her watching me once, mid-sip of her wine, eyes sharp with something between amusement and calculation. Then she turned away before I could hold the look. The drink went untouched. By the time we left, she was flush with victory, laughing, thanking everyone, promising follow-ups. I stayed 2 steps behind, polite, unreadable. But my silence wasn't passive. It was noting, recording. The way she laughed too loudly. The way she stood too close to her manager when she didn't have to. The way she threw that line like a dart, straight-faced, right in front of him. And the way he didn't laugh. That was the moment that stuck. Not her insult, his reaction. It was near the end of the evening when he approached me. The crowd had thinned, the music dipped into something mellow, and the rooftop air felt cooler now. Or maybe that was just me coming down from the sting of being casually reduced to a decorative fern. I stood near the railing, watching the city lights stretch out in quiet patterns. Her manager stepped up beside me, hands in his pockets, saying nothing for a few seconds. Just stood there, looking at the skyline like he wasn't about to speak at all. Then he said it. You seem sharper than she gives you credit for. No lead-in. No apology. Just that. Direct, clean. I turned my head slightly, studying his profile. No smirk. No challenge. Just observation. He didn't look at me when he said it, which somehow made it feel more honest. I didn't respond right away. Let it hang between us. She likes being the smartest one in the room, I said finally, not with bitterness, just fact. It wasn't a new realization, but hearing someone else brush against the edges of it gave the thought more shape. He gave a dry little breath, maybe a laugh or maybe a sigh. Most people like that, but it's usually more telling when they need to make sure everyone else knows it. That landed. I looked over at him again. His posture wasn't casual, it was intentional, controlled. The kind of stance someone takes when they're choosing every word they allow out. What do you do? He asked. Consulting. Systems restructuring. Operations leadership. Took a break when her promotion came through. Figured one spotlight was enough for a while. He nodded slowly, like he'd already guessed. You ever get the sense some people are more interested in how they're seen than what they build? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The seed wasn't dramatic. It wasn't scandalous or emotional. It was quiet, just a shift in how I was being perceived, from decorative to deliberate, from dismissed to considered. That one comment unraveled something I hadn't let myself fully name. I'd become invisible by choice, and she had learned to like it that way. He didn't push the conversation. After a moment, he clapped my shoulder once, briefly, and moved back toward the cluster of lingering guests. When she finally found me again, Her cheeks were flushed with wine and self-satisfaction. "You were quiet tonight," she said, brushing something off my jacket like I was a piece of display furniture. "Not much to add," I replied, eyes still on the skyline. She smiled like she'd won something. But the only thing she'd done was wake something up. We got home just after 11. She kicked off her heels in the hallway and sighed like she just stepped down from a stage. I followed behind, slipping off my blazer, still quiet, still processing. She moved through the kitchen with the careless confidence of someone whose performance had gone exactly as planned. Poured herself a glass of water, humming a tune I didn't recognize. Maybe something they'd played at the mixer. "You good?" she asked over her shoulder. I gave a slow nod. "Just tired." She turned then, leaning against the counter with a look halfway between affection and mild annoyance. "Don't take it personally. It's just a joke. You know that, right?" I met her eyes. "Do I?" She scoffed, waved a hand. "Oh, come on." Everyone laughed. "It was harmless." I didn't answer. I just watched her. She was already checking her phone, thumbs moving with practiced ease. Her smile returned, not to me, but to whoever was lighting up her screen. We went to bed a little after midnight. She turned her back to me and fell asleep fast, like the night hadn't rippled the surface at all. I lay awake longer, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of that moment on the rooftop. She'd wanted to score points. That much was clear. But what stuck with me wasn't her need to win. It was how quickly she expected me to swallow the loss. Over the next few days, the distance grew in ways so subtle you'd miss them if you weren't already watching. I started catching her smiling at texts she wouldn't show me. Her explanations got thinner, more practiced. "It's just work stuff," she'd say, locking her phone with a flick. "Boring client chaos. You wouldn't get it, it's corporate." I'd hear her in the other room, laughing softly at messages while I made dinner. She started dressing sharper for quick meetings, swapped her soft blouses for crisp cuts, heels just a little higher, lipstick a touch darker. It wasn't a reinvention, it was a recalibration, targeted, measured. "Big client pitch?" I asked one morning as she adjusted her necklace, the kind she never wore for regular check-ins. "Just staying sharp," she said, not looking up from the mirror. "Presentation's everything." She left with a kiss on the cheek, 1 second too late to feel natural. I stood by the window after she left, watching her car pull out, her posture confident behind the wheel. There was still no confrontation, no accusations, just data points collecting like dust. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was observing. And every new smile she hid behind a phone screen, every distant "It's work," added weight to the scale. She thought I was still the house plant, but the roots were moving. By Thursday, the rhythm of our home had shifted just enough to feel unfamiliar, not broken, just offbeat. Like someone had nudged the needle off the record. She started coming home later. Not every night, just enough that it couldn't be called routine. "Running behind," she'd say. "Quarter-end crunch." Her voice always breezy, her tone just light enough to discourage questions. But it was the kind of lightness that felt staged, like someone who'd practiced the phrasing in her car before stepping through the door. I never asked where she'd been. That's how she missed it, the fact that I was watching her stories, not her stories. Once, she left her purse in the living room while she showered. Her phone buzzed against the fabric, screen lighting up for half a second. A name I recognized, her manager. Not as a missed call. Not even a full message. Just a notification header. "Let's keep this between us." Winking face. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't need to. The rest was implied in the silence that followed. The next morning, she stood at the sink, carefully arranging her to-go coffee order. Extra shot, oat milk, cinnamon dusted on top. She wore a fitted blazer I hadn't seen before. The tag must have come off that morning. A tiny thread still clung to the cuff. She caught me looking and raised a brow. "What? New jacket? Client-facing day," she said, brushing past. "You know how it is." I did. I knew exactly how it was. Because I used to be that client-facing person. I knew what the mirror check meant. What the sudden preference for flattering angles in her camera setups meant. What kind of confidence came from attention that didn't live in your own house. That night she curled up on the couch with her laptop, ostensibly working. But I noticed the way her fingers flew across the keyboard when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The flicker of Slack notifications in her peripheral. The muted chuckle she tried to stifle. I brought her a glass of wine. She took it with a kiss on the cheek, never looking away from the screen. "You're sweet," she said, distracted. Just trying to earn my sunlight, I replied. She didn't catch the sarcasm, just gave a non-committal hum and kept typing. That was the first night I didn't sleep beside her. I stayed on the couch, watching the glow of the hallway light seep beneath the bedroom door. Not because I was angry, not because I didn't know what was happening, because I finally did. And because something else had started forming beneath the resentment. Not retaliation, not grief. Resolve. This wasn't about a moment anymore. It was about a pattern. And patterns? I knew how to unravel those. It happened on a Saturday morning, quiet and ordinary. She'd gone out for a quick coffee run, leaving her laptop open on the dining table. A first. She usually closed it like a reflex, like someone pulling a curtain shut. I wasn't looking to catch her. I was making eggs, but the screen had dimmed, not locked. And when I brushed past it on the way to refill my water, the motion sensor brought it back to life, bright, unapologetic. Slack was still open. Her workspaces sat in neat columns, team channels, project threads, but it was the direct messages folder she'd left in plain sight that drew my attention. His name sat near the top. I hesitated, not because I was unsure, but because I understood what crossing that line meant. You don't look unless you're ready to live with what you find. I clicked. The thread wasn't long. Maybe 2 weeks' worth of messages. Nothing explicit. No declarations. But every line vibrated with something unspoken and deliberately playful. A steady stream of inside jokes, emojis, late-night quips. Compliments wrapped in plausible deniability. The kind of language people use when they want to test a boundary without naming it. And then there it was. One message, timestamped 11:08 p.m. 2 nights ago. Honestly, I think he's too slow to notice. A simple sentence, casual, but it rang louder than all the others. She wasn't just hiding this. She was counting on me staying blind. That was the moment my pulse slowed instead of spiking. The moment any remaining naivety cracked and fell away. Because it was never just about attraction, or messages, or bad judgment. It was about respect, or more precisely, the loss of it. I closed the window. Didn't touch a thing. Left the laptop exactly how she'd left it. When she came back 10 minutes later, all coffee and sunshine, she kissed the top of my head. Hope you made extra, she said, glancing at the stove. I always do, I replied, sliding an omelet onto her plate. She sat across from me and smiled like nothing had shifted. Like the mask still fit. I smiled back. Nothing sharp, nothing cold. Because I wasn't angry. I was awake. And now that I had confirmation, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Not accuse. Not rage. Document. Prepare. I wouldn't be the house plant anymore. I'd be the gardener. I didn't confront her. That would have given her control over the narrative, and I wasn't in the mood to be managed. Instead, I pivoted. That afternoon, while she was out shopping for a team offsite, I updated my resume. It had been sitting untouched for months, buried in a folder labeled Later. I revised every bullet, sharpened every outcome, tailored each line for relevance. It wasn't about job hunting yet. It was about posture. Then I pulled out my old hard drive and started transferring files. Contracts, performance reviews, client referrals, the kind of receipts that couldn't be faked or framed. I wasn't just building a career story. I was building proof of value. Because I knew what she'd try when things cracked open, rewrite the past to justify the present. That night, I brought up a name from a previous contract, an old mentor. Someone she never liked much. Said he talked too slow, and smiled like he was planning something. She had a knack for resenting people I respected. I was thinking of reaching out to Greg, I said casually as we loaded the dishwasher. She barely looked up. Why? Thought you said you were taking a break. I was. But I miss being around people who don't measure worth by status updates. She smirked, eyes still on a dirty plate. Sounds like a dig. It's not, I said evenly. It's a reminder. She closed the dishwasher with a little more force than necessary. You do whatever makes you feel productive. There it was. That word again. Productive. Her code for visible, valuable, externally validated. As if stillness was synonymous with laziness. As if reflection couldn't be strategy. I didn't react. Just nodded. The next day, I created a new document titled Dignity Ledger. Every slight, every dismissive phrase, every double standard, I logged it. Not for revenge. For clarity. Because disrespect, like mold, grows best in quiet places. and I was done being quiet. I noticed other things too. She started locking her phone with a new passcode, switched her Slack notification settings to silent, changed her ringtone, something low and pulsing, designed to be heard only by her. But what she didn't change was her arrogance. The way she assumed I was still orbiting her sun, grateful just to be warmed. She had no idea I'd already started turning away. Not loudly, strategically. I wasn't planning an exit yet, but I was building an edge. It arrived as plainly as a calendar reminder. No warning, no explanation, just a subject line that read, "Quick touch point, her manager." The same man who hadn't laughed at her rooftop jab, who'd studied me like he was recalibrating something. I opened the email expecting it to be a follow-up from that night, maybe a cordial check-in. But the body of the message made my pulse slow in a different way. "I saw your profile. Impressive. I'm assembling a core team for something off-grid. Would appreciate a conversation if you're open." Below that, a link to book a time. No mention of her. No allusion to complications. Just professional language, clean and intentional. I stared at the message for a full minute. Not out of surprise, but to absorb how swiftly the roles were shifting. This wasn't about opportunity. This was about being seen. I booked the slot. 30 minutes. Neutral ground. Just two professionals discussing value. When she came home that night, her energy was bright again, unnaturally so. That false high you carry when something's fragile beneath it. She talked about some off-site planning drama, rolled her eyes at a teammate who always needs to be the star, and then pivoted. "Oh, by the way, my manager said you seemed quiet at the mixer." She watched me carefully as she said it. I kept my voice flat. "Did he?" "Yeah," she said, biting into a piece of fruit. "Said you had a stillness, kind of unsettling." I gave her a faint smile. "Still waters and all that." She laughed, but it came too fast, like she didn't quite know what to do with that answer. That night, while she curled up with her laptop again, probably mid-Slack flirtation, I prepped for the meeting, printed my portfolio, jotted down fresh metrics, reviewed some key frameworks I'd built for clients that always impressed. She thought she'd drawn the spotlight onto herself so intensely that no one could see the man standing behind her. But her manager had seen through the noise, through her need to posture, through the performance. And now he was circling back, not for her, for me. That told me something important. Whatever she thought she was controlling, wasn't. We met at a corner table in a quiet coffee shop 3 neighborhoods over. Neutral, low foot traffic, no chance of accidental crossover. I arrived 10 minutes early, ordered black coffee, no sugar, and sat where I could watch both the entrance and the street. Not out of paranoia, out of practice. This wasn't just a meeting. It was reconnaissance. He walked in right on time. No entourage. No pretense. Just a leather portfolio and a focused gaze. He shook my hand firmly, and didn't waste time on small talk. "I appreciate you making the time," he said as we sat. "Curiosity's a powerful motivator," I replied. He gave a small nod, then opened his folder and pulled out a printout, my resume, annotated, highlighted in places that told me he hadn't skimmed it. He'd studied it. "I've been quietly building something separate from the main org," he said. "Off the books for now. Too much red tape, not enough vision. What I need is someone who can cut through systems without making a mess." I listened, saying little. Not out of humility, out of precision, letting him fill the air with his intent. He went on. "I've worked with a lot of people who present well but crumble when the real work starts. Your background tells me you're not one of them." I finally spoke. "She didn't recommend me." He smiled, not smugly, but knowingly. "No, she didn't." The silence after that felt sharp. "I'm not here to make this awkward," he continued. "I didn't reach out to interfere. Frankly, I was surprised you were on the sidelines at all. It didn't track." That comment lingered. "I stepped back intentionally," I said. "Sometimes it's smart to observe before acting." His expression didn't change, but I saw the calculation behind it. "I'm offering you a director-level bill-out role," he said plainly. "Confidential for now. Strategic autonomy, full input, and clean separation from existing lines of conflict." There it was, unspoken, but acknowledged. He wasn't naive to the tension. He just wasn't interested in it. I took a sip of my coffee, letting the heat ground me. "I'll consider it," I said, calm and clear. He didn't push, just slid a folder across the table. "Everything's in there." As we stood, he added, For what it's worth, stillness isn't weakness. It's usually the pause before movement. We shook hands and he left. I sat alone for a few more minutes, staring at the folder. She had joked that I was a house plant. He just offered me a position where I'd be rebuilding the entire garden. The folder sat in my home office drawer for 3 days before I opened it again. Not because I had doubts, but because I needed to do this right. No chaos, no confrontation. Just clean exits and closed loops. First, I updated our joint finances, quietly, methodically. I moved half of our liquid savings into a separate account, one she didn't have access to. Nothing hidden, just secured. Then I disabled shared access to my business software, financial tools, and personal drives. She hadn't touched them in months, but if things went south, I wasn't going to leave any part of my foundation exposed. She didn't notice a thing. Still waltzed through the house like she was on stage. Still checked her phone under the dinner table, smiling at messages she thought I couldn't see. Still tossed around terms like synergy and executive presence, like she trademarked them. I spent one final weekend walking the house with a checklist in my head. Essentials only. Passport, laptop, personal documents, my late father's watch. A few notebooks filled with handwritten plans, the rest, replaceable. When she left Monday morning for what she called an early strategy session, I printed the letter. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a warning. It was a statement of closure. No accusations, no dramatics. Just one sentence that summed it all up. Leadership doesn't live in her house anymore. I signed it, folded it, left it on the dining table where she'd be sure to find it. My essentials were already in the trunk of my car. I didn't slam the door when I left. Didn't linger in the hallway or glance back at the shared photos on the wall. I walked out the same way I'd stayed for so long, quiet, calculating, clear-eyed. On the drive to my temporary place, a short-term rental I'd secured the day after the meeting, my phone buzzed. Not her, him. A calendar invite. Subject: Welcome to Build Mode. Role: Director, Strategy and Systems. Start date: Immediate. I accepted without hesitation. She'd wanted to frame me as passive, ornamental, a static piece of her curated life. But I'd already stepped out of the frame. And now, I was writing the next one. She got home around 6. I wasn't there. The house was quiet, like it had held its breath all day. No music, no scent of dinner. Just the faint hum of the fridge and the letter waiting on the table, printed, signed, placed squarely in the center. She called my name once, casual, like it was just another Tuesday. Then again, sharper. Still no answer. Her heels clicked across the tile as she moved toward the kitchen. She saw the letter, picked it up, scanned the first line, stopped reading. I know this because she called me 5 minutes later. Twice. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "What is this?" No punctuation. Just panic barely contained in 4 words. I waited. Let her feel the silence. 20 minutes later, another message came through, shorter this time, a single name. David? Not the voice of someone confident. Not even someone angry. Someone cornered. That's when the second message arrived, from the person she never expected. Her boss. The man she'd spent months orbiting, tossing glances and coded messages at like coins in a fountain. His message was shorter than mine. We'll review conduct expectations tomorrow. I didn't need to see her face to know how it hit. That tone, clipped, corporate, final, didn't leave room for charm or spin. He hadn't just drawn a line. He'd closed the loop. 2 exits. Same day. One from the man she belittled. One from the man she tried to impress. I imagined her standing in the center of that now too quiet house. Letter in one hand, phone in the other, no control left to clutch. This wasn't retaliation. It was a natural outcome. A clean extraction. When I finally checked her last message, a desperate string of half-formed questions, trailing apologies, and one final plea, I didn't reply. Because there was nothing left to clarify. She thought she'd won a game I wasn't even playing anymore. And now, she was alone on a stage no one was watching. The fallout didn't hit all at once. It never does. Downturns often hide behind confidence at first glance. I didn't hear from her the next day, or the one after. But word traveled faster than she did. The first ripple came from a mutual acquaintance, someone still inside her company, someone who owed me nothing but respected quiet competence more than loud performance. "She's not handling it well," he said in a hushed tone over the phone. "That letter? People saw it. Apparently, she'd shown up at work rattled, told her team I'd left unexpectedly, framed it like a personal crisis she was managing through grace and resilience. That might have worked, if it weren't for the screenshots. Turns out, the messages she thought were private, off-hours messages, the casual dismissals, the "he's too slow to notice" quips, hadn't been as invisible as she assumed. Slack channels don't disappear. Colleagues she underestimated had noticed the inappropriate tone months ago and started capturing it. Quietly. Carefully. Just in case. HR got wind of it. Not from me. From inside. She was pulled into a closed-door meeting by week's end. No dramatic firing. No loud accusations. Just the measured calm of policy reviews and discussions about conduct expectations. Her usual ease couldn't soften the outcome. Because in the room where power is measured by discretion and trust, her carelessness had currency, and not the kind you spend. Meanwhile, the company she joked I'd never fit into? The one she treated like an exclusive club she was lucky to belong to? They welcomed me in. Not quietly, not reluctantly, but with open clarity. I walked into my first leadership strategy meeting with full visibility and immediate input. No posturing, no second-guessing. Her name never came up. She had to watch, from a diminished role, stripped of the subtle influence she'd relied on, her posture a little more brittle now. The office whispers weren't cruel, just detached. She wasn't scandalous, just sidelined. And me? I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Because real consequences don't need fanfare. They just settle in like gravity. She'd built a version of me she could control. A passive figure, convenient and quiet. But she miscalculated the one truth I never voiced until it was too late for her. Stillness isn't surrender. It's strategy.